From Matt Brown predicting that Cejudo's gonna make light work of Sterling, to Sean O'Malley claiming that Funkmaster's gonna choke Triple C out. These are the predictions for the highly anticipated matchup between Sterling and Cejudo. Let's begin with Matt's bold prediction. Back in January 2023, when the fight wasn't even official, Brown claimed that Cejudo's gonna beat Aljamain pretty easily. Why? Well, according to him, Triple C's just gonna be way too much for Aljo to handle. Not only is Henry a spectacular wrestler, but he's a terrific good boxer as well. And while the current champ's pretty good in both those departments as well, Matt thinks that Cejudo's even better than him. Plus, he's especially sold on the fact that Triple C's stand-up game's gonna shine through in the bout. After all, he's super disciplined with his stand-up, as he stays tight and strong. So Brown doesn't see the fight being a close one. And he's one of the few people who's predicting that the King of Cringe is gonna win relatively easily. What's more, Brown sees Henry entering 2024 as the bantamweight champ. Now, while Matt's confident that Cejudo's gonna get the job done without much difficulty, some are claiming that while Cejudo's win isn't guaranteed, he can't be underestimated. In fact, that's exactly what Jens Pulver thinks during an interview with Sportskeeda MMA in April 2023. The soon-to-be Hall of Famer weighed in on the fight, and he started off by saying that in his eyes, the Funkmaster isn't the true bantamweight champion right now because Henry's the real champion. After all, he never even lost it because he'd relinquish it back in May 2020. So according to Pulver, Aljo's fighting the real champ, and he thinks that this is gonna mess with Sterling's mentality heading into the fight. In his words, you can try to tell yourself that you're champ, but you know in the back of your mind that the real champ is right here. And only once Aljamain can beat the King of Cringe can he claim to be the best in the division. But that's not all. When he was asked whether Triple C's layoff will affect his chances of winning, he said that this wouldn't be the case. In Pulver's opinion, it's possible for Cejudo to get his hands back on the title, and that it would be stupid to be under the impression that the former two-division champ hasn't been training hard. He then went on to call Cejudo an incredible athlete. While he's not explicitly backing Henry, I think it's obvious that Jens thinks Triple C will win. But of course, the man himself, Henry Cejudo, clearly backing himself against Aljo. As you all know, the King of Cringe is pretty outspoken, but surprisingly it took him quite a bit of time to finally tell fight fans his thoughts on the matchup. In an interview with ESPN MMA in April 2023, Triple C made it known that he's pretty darn confident in his ability to get the job done. Here's the thing, as Henry pointed out, he takes game planning extremely seriously, to the point that every fighter he's sparring with is the exact same size as Aljo. And then he pointed to the fact that the Funkmaster clearly isn't on the same level when it comes to this. Why? Well, as Cejudo pointed out, most of the dudes Sterling's sparring with are taller than Triple C, so he thinks that these little things are what gives him the edge in the bout. After all, he thinks that Aljamain's preparing for the wrong dude by sparring against fighters that aren't the same size as the former champ. Though that's not all. The King of Cringe then went on to add that he thinks his fight IQ is superior to Sterling's before hyping himself up big time. In fact, he went as far as to say that he's better in every sense of the way. Whether it's power, speed, experience, grit, or even technique, Cejudo's confident that he has the edge. That's a pretty bold thing to say, but if he can back this up, he'll look like an absolute legend. But of course, Aljo doesn't think Cejudo's on his level. In fact, he predicts that he'll finish Triple C pretty quickly. When the Funkmaster was interviewed by Inside Fighting in April 2023, he let fight fans know that he's more confident than ever heading into the fight. In fact, he's so confident in his abilities that he thinks he can stop Henry in the second round. You heard that right. So that begs the question, how exactly does he plan on doing that? Well, in the first round, Sterling's gonna try and feel Cejudo out, and then try to gas pedal the former champ so he can get him on the back foot. Following that, Aljo wants to take the fight to the ground. According to the champion, this would be ideal, because once he secures the takedown, he'll just pound Henry. And then the Funkmaster expects to either be able to force Triple C to tap, or get the win via TKO after pounding him out. Sheesh, this dude's oozing with confidence, but that's how it should be. After all, he is the champ. Luckily for him, numerous pros are on the same page as him. And that includes former foe Peter Yan. Yan and Aljo brawled against each other twice, so he knows better than anyone else what Sterling brings to the table. And even though Aljamain defeated him fair and square in their second fight, Jan isn't holding any grudges. In fact, he's been pretty honest and said that he's backing Funkmaster to get the job done. Much like other pros and even the fans, he strongly believes that the former two-division champ being out for 3 years is seriously gonna hinder his chances at getting the W. According to Peter, the 3-year layoff is gonna result in him not being able to display his best shape. While Jan's prediction matters a lot, this next guy's matters even more. Yup, I'm talking about Marlon Moraes. You all know him as the man who's fought both Aljo and Henry, so he knows what both fighters bring to the table, making his opinion on the fight one of the most credible. When discussing the matchup in March 2023, he first made sure to praise both men before going on to highlight Sterling's strengths. According to him, Funkmaster doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. He even went as far as to say that Aljamain's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the UFC as of now. What's more, Marlon pointed out that even though striking was never Aljo's strong suit, he still managed to outstrike some of the best strikers in the game. So keeping everything in mind, he sees this being a tough matchup for the King of Cringe. He claimed that besides having the size advantage, Aljamain's wrestling is just as good as Triple C's, and that his grappling's better than the former champs. What's more, Moraes believes that when it comes to striking, Sterling again has the edge because of Funkmaster's reach advantage. So, in Marlon's opinion, Aljo's the better fighter and he's gonna get the W, and Pedro Munoz is of the same opinion. Like Jan, he also pointed to the fact that he just doesn't see how Cejudo can get the job done after the 3-year hiatus. According to Munoz, this will make a huge difference after the 3rd round. Pedro then added that Sterling's currently physically strong and in great shape, so he's gotta be the favorite. So he sees Cejudo possibly gassing out after 3 rounds, while Funkmaster's gonna be ready to go as if he can fight for 10 straight rounds. Though the support for Aljo doesn't stop there, because even Corey Sandhagen is backing the bantamweight champ. He pointed to the size advantage that Aljo holds against Cejudo, and said that it'll be the difference maker. Sandhagen believes that their wrestling will cancel each other out, and that'll result in it being a kickboxing fight for the most part. Corey then added that it seems unlikely that Triple C will have an answer for Aljo. After all, since Funkmaster's bigger, Sandhagen believes he'll outclass Henry pretty easily when it comes to kickboxing. Besides all of those pros, even one of the hottest names in the bantamweight division thinks Aljamain's gonna win the fight. Yup, you guessed it. He's the man himself, Sugar Sean O'Malley. While speaking to Michael Bisping before the fight was made official, Sean let everyone know that he thinks there's no chance Triple C wins against Aljo. He predicted that Sterling's probably gonna make Henry submit. And as you might have guessed, he's doubtful about whether Cejudo had even been training hard while on his hiatus. What's more, O'Malley even took this as a chance to trash talk the former two-division champ, saying that he looked like a fat drunk every time he was in the ring. So as it is, he wasn't the most fit, and his layoff just makes things worse. He finished by saying that he thinks Sterling's probably gonna choke Cejudo out. Sheesh, there's no doubt that there's some truth to what Sugar's saying, but he's being just a bit too harsh. So from Sean O'Malley claiming that Funkmaster's gonna choke Triple C out, to Matt Brown predicting that Henry Cejudo's gonna make light work of Aljamain Sterling. Those were the predictions for the highly anticipated matchup between Sterling and Cejudo.